Now let's discuss as the flop caller in position when check two on the turn. So how does this happen? This is when someone raises, you call in position, flop comes, they bet, you call, and on the turn, they check to you. So the out of position pre-flop raiser, continuation bet, and then they check the turn. So in this scenario, it's important to note that you will have basically no junk in your range because you will have folded a lot of your junk on the flop. Now, you will have a pretty wide range here of a lot of like backdoor draws and kind of junky draws, but nothing in your range is going to be just like total air, right? Realize though that your opponent's range is usually going to be made up of a lot of marginal hands and some junk, because notice in this scenario when they bet the flop but then check the turn, first off, they're probably not betting everything on the flop to begin with, as they should not when they're out of position, right? Although some people will. And then when they check the turn, that indicates a marginal made hand or junk because they will very often bet with their best hands and their draws, as they should with a reasonably polarized strategy, right? So when they check the turn, their range is going to be, depending on exactly what their range is set up as, something like 70% marginal made hands that plan on check calling the turn and 30% junk. Roughly, maybe a little bit more marginal to junk, maybe a little bit more junk. It's tough to know exactly what their range looks like. Some people who are particularly bad will bet all of their premium hands and draws and marginal hands on the turn, and when they check, they only have junk, in which case they're really, really easy. But easy to play against because you just bet and you win, right? But in this scenario against a good player, this is roughly what you should do in this scenario. You should be generally betting pretty polarized in this scenario, unless you have a very big range advantage, which you usually won't. And you're going to want to be betting with a range that is 50% premium hands, 50% draws, 50% at most, right? And then trying to keep, again, a 70-30 ratio of marginal to junk. So same logic in general as when you are betting the turn in all the other scenarios. But this is a spot where you do want to make sure that you are well protected in your checking range, because you want to make sure your checking range is not all garbage, just like your opponent should make sure their checking range is not all garbage. And when your opponent is capped and condensed, in general, you are going to want to be betting with your best hands that beat your opponent's marginal hands, and then your junk that loses to your opponent's marginal hands, right? So essentially you are going to be polarized in this scenario, even though the premium made hands may be slightly weaker than they were earlier. So like, let's say normally, top pair, second kicker is premium and better, right? If that's the case now, maybe like even some weaker top pairs count as premium, because once your opponent checks, their range is going to be significantly more capped and weak than if they continued betting at you, right? So anyway, let's go through some examples and we will take a look at this interesting spot.